Hey guys, welcome back to A Story with Rory. I'm your host, and tonight we have a very special guest with us. His name is Matthew. He's from the USA. He's got a pretty interesting story. How's it going, Matthew?
What's up, man? How you doing?
Pretty good. So, this story you have, all the fans here would love to hear it, and just kind of take us back to when it started, where you were at,
Yeah,
and kind of how it, all originated.
yeah. Take you back maybe 5, 6 years. I mean, this could have been like maybe 10 years, like 2016, 2017, 2018. I was up in college in Greene County, Pennsylvania, very deep in Appalachia. I went to school in a valley up there. Population's maybe like 4,000, a lot of hunters, people that own a lot of land, farm animals, so I was around all that kind of culture. Grew up hunting a little bit. Very familiar with all the animals and nature and geography of the East Coast, and then being out school out there. I kind of dove deeper and going out in the mountains and living out there and stuff like that. So I would say going deeper in the story from there would be I lived with about three other guys. One guy was more from Central PA, but he was very familiar with that terrain. The other guy is from Western Maryland, which is very similar to Greene County, Pennsylvania, and one night we were out there and we're just sitting on the front porch. Um, and all of a sudden you kind of just hear this insane roar. And I mean, like we all look at each other and it kind of happened again, or like it was so long that we
Mhm.
thought it was about to end. So when we look at each other and then it keeps going and then we're like, what the hell was that? And I mean, across the street was like a farm with just horses, but we were all standing there like, that's not a horse. That is not a cow. That is not an elk. And I believe the elk is probably one of the biggest animals you can probably find in like Pennsylvania. And
Mhm.
I mean, from that point on, we were like, what else could that have been? And I was always a believer of Bigfoot and other, animals, similar to him. And I mean, at that point, I mean, we were just standing there shook to our core of just, disbelief of like, what was that?
Right. So you guys were outside, I guess, when that happened.
Oh, right on the right outside in like the front grass, front porch area. Yeah, we lived in about a piece of property about 2-ish, 3, 4 miles, something like that from campus. And the property itself that we all kind of like owned was about like a mile altogether. So it was a very large piece of property, like single house all by itself. You know, just this old dirt road in front of the house, pretty much down in like the woods.
How far out of the city were you?
We're about 45 minutes from Pittsburgh, and then we're about another 35 minutes, 25 miles from Morgantown, West Virginia. Those two would probably be about the biggest cities from Greene County. I was in Waynesburg. Um, but just in terms of downtown Waynesburg, probably good 7, 8 miles. And it's not a big town, just a
Right.
old courthouse with a couple, side shops. Population maybe about like 4,000 people spread out in a huge service area.
Well, you have the Appalachian Mountains right there, don't you? Does that run through Pennsylvania at all?
Yeah, it definitely like cuts through kind of like State College, coming down like that left hand corner, going super deep into West Virginia. I think West Virginia is maybe one of the only states that's entirely Appalachian Mountains.
Oh gosh, West Virginia is absolutely just stunning. Like,
Oh, oh my God,
man,
yeah. I love
I went
driving
through
out
there
there.
one time. Yeah, I went through there once, and I was just like, wow. I mean, I literally thought I was in like Washington or Oregon or something. It was that green. I was just
Oh,
amazing.
yeah. When I drive out there, Western Maryland, and going up into West Virginia and going up to Pennsylvania, I mean, you can point in like almost any direction sometimes and be like, "There's nobody out there, not a
Hmm.
single person." You know?
Well, there's a lot of weird stuff that happens on the Appalachian Trail. I mean, there's a lot of stories from hikers and like avid hunters and people that do this as like a sport or for a living. And they hear things. They've had encounters where, they're camping. Like this one lady, I don't exactly remember where I heard it. It was on like Discovery Plus or one of those shows, and she was out camping. One of those like people that camp for like all year or something. Like I think she was trying to go from start to finish, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's
Mm.
like so many days. Maybe it's like a year, almost a year of just complete hiking. And she made it to this one spot. And all I remember of the story is that she was no more than 100 feet away from the trail, and she was camping, and she woke up, like she went to sleep in her tent, and then she woke up, and there was like this like giant beast animal thing just over her, and she couldn't move, she couldn't talk, she couldn't do anything, and she was okay because like all she said is like it was sniffing her like a just like a rabid animal like dog or something like that, but she said it was bigger than a bear and it just stunk like high heavens, like it was this
Mm.
horrible smell. And so my wife was telling me that, and I was like, "Well, that's really strange, you know." But the more I've kind of looked into like Appalachian Trail stories and stuff like that from hikers, hunters, and people that just do all that for a living, or they just have a huge hobby in it, there's just all these weird stories that just come about. So yeah, not to get off on a little tangent on the Appalachian Trail, but it's very not surprising um, hearing what you've heard. You know, was it? I'm guessing it wasn't like a whoop sound. It's more like a growl, I guess.
Yeah, you cut out there. I caught the last part of the question. It sounded
Oh.
like you were saying, like what, like asking me the description of the sound, the growl.
Yeah, it wasn't like a whoop or anything. It was kind of just like a deep roaring growl. Like how would what would you compare it to?
And I'm getting like goosebumps and sweats thinking about it. Yeah, so if you like listen to a deer or an elk kind of give out their hard like scream or whatever you want to call it, an elk
Mm-hmm.
almost goes to a higher pitch, almost like you could play on like a legitimate instrument. But
Mm-hmm.
with the sound that we heard, and I grew up playing music and instruments my whole life, there's no way that you could reenact that sound with like a wood instrument, with a jazz instrument, with a drum. I mean, there's just such a low, deep like roar. And we're all college wrestlers thinking we can beat a bunch of people up. And then when you hear something like that and it shakes you and you look at all your friends and you're like, what in the heck was that? I
Yeah,
mean, it really was something. And to this day, since it's happened, I've never heard anything like it.
it's usually about how it happens, I think. Um, what time of day was this? Was this like middle of the night, afternoon?
I'd probably say it's anywhere from about sun was completely down. I'd probably say like 9:30, 10:15. I wouldn't be surprised if it was 11. Midsummer. I'd say June, July.
So did you guys just run inside real quick, or you just like talking about it, like what the heck was that?
We stayed right there in the front yard because we could tell that it was probably you know 6, 7, 800, 9 yards, something like that. I mean, definitely on the other side of the mountain or like the hilltop. Um, and we stood out there and kind of had that conversation about like what was it, all trying to rationalize with each other, saying, you know, was that a deer? Was that an elk? Was it something getting hit by a car? Was it a train? Because there's some heavy equipment being operated, and it's a coal mining town, so there's one train. But I mean, I lived all around Waynesburg, so I kind of know like where and how you would hear that train. It just wasn't that.
Mm-hmm. Like you know the difference between the train and something that you've never heard before from,
Yeah,
you know, in that area.
yeah. Because I even lived a block and a half from that train post graduation, and then during school when I heard that noise, I lived in the mountains. Yeah,
Mm-hmm. Dang, that's crazy. Did it just do it one time, or was it like a multiple thing?
it almost sounded like it was one long one, slightly divided into two. So it was like um almost feels like whoa, and then like the second part was like the louder part.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to be screaming in my car, but just imagine like thinking that you have everything left in the air tank, and then last second you give it that last second like boom,
Yeah.
and that's the part that got us. The first one we were like, what animal is that? And then when it kind of stopped and went to the end of the sound, that's when we
Mm-hmm.
were like, what was that? Because that was a lot different than anything we've ever heard.
Yeah. I mean, moose do make weird noises, but not to what you're describing, like by
Yeah,
any means.
I mean, if
So
there was a moose in Western Pennsylvania, I don't know
yeah,
how it got there.
moose even frequent that area.
I don't think, I highly doubt it.
Yeah, probably
Willing to
just
bet my life
bears.
savings on that.
Right, probably just bears and mountain lions, maybe stuff like that, like your normal mountain animals.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, that's crazy. I mean, I've never heard the growling, roaring sound of something that could be a supposed like Sasquatch or something like that. I mean, I think I have heard like a mountain lion scream before, where it sounds like a lady screaming.
Yeah,
I've heard that, and that was pretty freaky. But as far as either any whoops or any growls, I did hear a grunt once where it was like, if you know what like a antelope or like a deer elk grunt, like
yeah,
snort, it was like that, but with a growl attached to it. Like I don't know how to really put it into words, but it was kind of just like a giant, just like a subwoofer just comes on, and you just hear this like, and
yeah.
it just like the sound just goes right through you. It feels like, and I had that on my property here in Oklahoma area, and it was
Yeah.
absolutely terrifying. Like it.
Well, to give my own 2 cents on that, it's like, yeah, like those, deer and, other animals to that size, they do make like a good grunt or like loud noise, but it didn't carry nearly as far as the
Right.
sound I heard.
Like whatever you did here was probably something so massive to be able to produce, like you're saying, to produce that sound at that volume and that magnitude, basically.
Yeah. Yeah. The lungs on that thing had to be huge, or the
Yeah.
throat or the neck muscles, just the physical features that you'd have to put in a diagram or a drawing to fit that sound would be
Mhm.
massive.
You guys are probably like, so much for camping next weekend.
Yeah, yeah. Because we used to go kayaking throughout the rivers and stuff like that. Like the main
Oh,
one
that's
that
cool.
goes through Pittsburgh, like the Monongahela, and I think
Hmm.
that kind of goes through West Virginia and my area down there.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, but that was a wild summer. I mean, if I could even upload a video to you one day, I have a video of what exactly that mountaintop looks like,
Hmm.
and you could just see how one the sound could carry, two how vast the geographical area is, and then three, like just the fact that it carried from pinpoint A to B, and the animals in that area just doesn't make sense.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy when there's like a major predator in the area anywhere, it's like all the other animals, they just stop. They don't
Oh yeah.
move. They sense it, and it's like nothing else makes a noise. So when things are, even the bugs, when things are dead quiet, you just have to wonder, is there something around here that's making them like that? Or is it just a seasonal change or something, something like that.
Yeah.
But
And all
yeah,
the
man.
camping and stuff I've done, man, there's like two, three terrifying sounds you could hear. It'd be like, yeah, larger animals. But that other one that just hits you down the spine of why did everything just stop making noise?
Hmm.
Like the woods is supposed to be kind of loud with like the crickets and all the other animals, the water flow. Usually no cars out there. You don't have the city traffic. If something went dead quiet like that, I'd be scared.
There's been times where I've been in the middle of a forest, and it's gone to that quiet level, and it is like you can hear your it's like you can hear your hair grow. It's just
Oh,
that quiet. It's eerie. Like I don't like it.
eerie. Yeah, that's a good word right there.
Like Erie, Pennsylvania.
Yeah, that's
So,
funny. My mom's actually from up there, and she told me about her friend had an encounter where they left the pool.
oh, you cut out for a second. I think your mic's. I think your mic cut out for a second. Uh, Hold on. Can't hear you yet. Let me try something. Now try it. Hmm. Still nothing. Let me. Uh, how about now? Here, let me try sending you. Let me send you another link real quick. Sorry, guys, we're having a little bit of a technical difficulty tonight. Of course, that always happens. We get a good story going on or a good description about something, and then something happens, and uh, yada yada yada.
There we go.
All right, there we go. Sorry, we're having a little technical difficulty, but we're back. Cool.
Awesome. Where did we leave off?
Something about somebody in Erie. Was it your mom?
My mom's friend. Yeah.
Mom's friend.
Yeah.
And I didn't hear anything about. We didn't get anything about what happened there.
So it was the summer, and I remember my mom saying that they were leaving the pool, and my mom went one way because she never took the wooded path. My mom's friend did, and then she said when she like came up on this corner turn, we kind of go around a tree and it kind of goes uphill. Then when she made that turn and looked to her left, it was like 50 feet away from her. My mom was like, she saw Bigfoot, and it just ran the other way, and
Oh
my friend
man.
stood, and her friend stood there in just shock, unbelief.
And when was that?
Well, my mom will be shit, hold on, 57 this year, so probably like 30 years ago when my mom was maybe 25, or actually maybe in high school, actually, so maybe even longer than that, 45 years ago, something like
Dang,
that. Yeah.
that's crazy though.
Yeah.
Was she out camping or hiking or just out and about?
They were just at the pool.
Oh, dang.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know how rural Erie used to be back in, the 70s, 80s,
Mm-hmm.
but you know I can imagine a little bit. I've been up there a couple of times when I was a kid.
Anything can happen. So, I mean, shoot, there have been sightings all over the place. I mean, Texas too, and Texas really isn't that tree covered of an area. Like when you go southeast towards Louisiana, it is. But overall, Texas has like a large number of sightings, and I think that might just be because of like there's a bunch of caves there, and really when you go southeast, there are tons of trees, so that would make
Yeah.
that would make sense. But
Yeah. I mean, I even went on that website. I don't know if it's still up or not. It's like bfro.net, and
mhm.
then it would have, you can type in like a geographical location in the United States, and it'll show you every 911 call ever made relating to Bigfoot or like a species unknown. And if you go to places where, it's very, very like just rural, and you look at some of these phone calls, I mean, it really does scare you because
Yeah.
one, calling 911 like a fake crime is illegal.
Hmm.
So then you look at, 3,000 plus sightings. How many of those people are really willing to break the law over just a, funny
Right.
story, you know?
Right. Oh, absolutely. No, I think honestly people have better things to do with their time, than to do stuff like that and risk getting in trouble or just risk getting made fun of, I mean, because there is I want to say there is still a little bit of stigmatism as far as giving a sighting report, anything like that, telling your friends, your family. But I feel like it's so common now for sightings to happen that with UFOs, Bigfoot, anything like that, that it's just becoming more of a normalized,
Yeah.
accepted thing. Because I mean, Native Americans talk about it for like hundreds and thousands of years. It's all around the world. It's nothing that
Yeah.
like one country just made up. So I think a lot of the stigmatism is going away slowly, but there still is people out there that are just kind of like, yeah, whatever, you're crazy because
Yeah.
they're mainly city people, and I'm not saying everybody because I was from the city, born and raised, but then when I moved out here, I was like, what's that noise? Like, what is that?
Yeah.
So once you get used to all the wildlife and the animals, then it's not as bad as you think. But when you hear something that you've never heard in your life, it's just like,
Yeah. I mean, and two or three other points out there would be like, what does someone gain calling 911 and just having a conversation with an operator saying, I saw this and that?
right,
You don't get handed a check immediately because a lot of people try to go to that instant gratification, like, how can I get the next best thing or get money in my pocket quick? You don't gain anything. You don't get a Venmo, a check in the mail by calling 911 and saying, hey, I saw this. Um, and then another thing, I guess, would be Um, yeah, you're talking about like how common it is and things like that. Um, with AI and you know, back to like those kind of solidarity, I guess, would be the Egyptians have like the whole Sphinx, and they even
Hmm.
on their hieroglyphics they have UFOs, helicopters, all this other stuff that it's like, if they're such an ancient civilization, how do they have such advanced technology carved in rock in their tombs? And why
Right.
is it so uncommon or crazy for me to say I saw this, and then people are like, no, that's not true. But the Egyptians have an entire cat human species
Hmm.
dedicated to their culture.
Right. True. No,
You
very
know,
true. It does make you kind of wonder, like the technology growth from 1900s to now. Like the Industrial Revolution. Like, where did we get the thought of a microchip or a processor or a circuit board?
Mm.
Like, who had that idea? I'm not saying that those materials aren't able to be made, and put together and thought of, but I'm like, who had that idea? Because it's like those are all ideas. Every single invention, patent, everything you get like that is an idea that came from somebody or some source, and it was all from the person. But I'm like, where did they get that from? They didn't just. I don't know if everyone was just like, I have an idea for a steam cleaner, or like a steam engine car, or this or that. I mean, a lot of things are ingenuitive that people study, and they have ideas, of course, but there's just some things that's like we saw the first computer as like the size of a room. I think it was back in like 60s or something like that. And then now, we have this like cell phone, or they've got computers that are as small as just like a flash drive. So it's like,
Yeah,
what the heck? Like that. I mean, why didn't that technology come out in the 1800s or the 17s or the 1600s? You know what I mean? Like, what made 19 to 2000 the just exponential growth period? Like what made it at that time? I don't know. I mean, there's just all sorts of theories out there about like alien technology, or like you were saying, like in the pyramids, like they had all this stuff that was already carved in stone that we didn't see for hundreds of years, and um, maybe even thousands. It all depends on how old those civilizations really are. But I don't know. That's a deeper subject for another time. But
yeah, yeah.
um,
I hear you. I mean, I follow this guy on Instagram. He was actually on Joe Rogan's podcast a while ago. I think his Instagram thing is like Boneyard, Alaska, and they're
mhm,
constantly digging up just woolly mammoths, all these other crazy skeletons out there. And in terms of like keeping records true and stats true, if you go to like the Washington D.C. Museum for the like natural history one, they claim that like birds did not have feathers during like the prehistoric age because pterodactyls didn't have feathers. They were like this like skinless bird or like hairless bird. And that guy in Alaska, he dug up a big woolly mammoth, and they're dated between whatever. But inside the tusk of the woolly mammoth, he pulls out a giant blue feather, and he says, "Someone take this to Washington D.C. and tell them that they have to rewrite all the information they know, or at least debunk the fact that they thought those animals had feathers and wings and stuff like that." And then you kind of just think about it. Okay, if that's true, and this is what the experts are telling us,
mhm.
why is Bigfoot so quickly dismissed, or why are these things so quickly dismissed?
Right. True. No, that's a very very valid point there. Cool, cool. Well, yeah. I mean, I appreciate your story, man. That was awesome. Like I couldn't imagine what I would do if I was in your shoes and hearing that kind of sound from that
Yeah.
close by. And what's weird is like most people want to have some kind of encounter, but then I think when push comes to shove, if they really did, they'd be like, "Nah, I'm
No
good."
way.
Like as long as I'm like in a giant armored vehicle, then maybe. But it's like
Yeah.
it's not what
Like,
you think. Yeah.
no, yeah, it's not like these things are tamed animals by any sense.
I mean, put yourself in front of a lion, right? No way, right?
Yeah, no,
Now,
thank you.
if there's a 4-inch plexiglass between you and the lion and there's a cage, it's not that bad. But Bigfoot doesn't go by those rules or whatever. He doesn't. hey, here's this box. Do you want to get in here and then look at me so we can talk? It's not how it works. It's like you're having an encounter in the wild by something that is undiscovered, to this
Yeah.
day. So, I mean, that alone would freak most people out, but just like hearing what you heard, or you got to check out some of the other the stories I have on my podcast, some of the other episodes. Some guys have their first eyewitness accounts. They've seen it with their own eyes. A lot of the sightings were back in the 70s, and I don't know what the deal is with the 70s and Bigfoot sightings. Like, I really don't. But I feel
Mm.
like there's some kind of tie to it because it's like everyone I talk to, 1977, 72, it's like, but they're happening now. But some of the most prolific sightings where they actually got a visual, like head to toe, of Bigfoot, it was all, a lot of them are just in the 70s. And I mean, maybe it's just the people that I talk to that are older, and that could just be a lot of it. But I just find a weird, there's got to be a correlation there somewhere just in the years. I don't know.
Well, something crazy that I heard that I think is very closely related to what you said is I believe we dropped the atomic bombs on Japan in the 40s, right, during World War II.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had the biggest spike of reported UFO sightings in the 50s when Roswell was created because all that radiation gives off, early in the power of the bombs, it gives off such a strong signal and it goes out in the atmosphere. So it's pretty much just big RF waves going
Mm-hmm.
out to whatever's out there. Is it a coincidence right after that, a decade later, or not, 8, 9, 10 years later, everyone's calling 911 saying, I'm seeing something in the sky. I'm seeing something in the sky, you know?
Yeah, no way. I mean, for all I know, it could have been like a signal transmitted, like something that big could have been, you don't know what it does out in outer space because I mean,
Oh,
heck, you can shine light in outer space and it'll keep going until it hits something, like
yeah.
speed of light. So that's how it works. So, I mean, I know there's been a lot of UFO reports surrounded by like either like nuclear plants, like bunkers, stuff like that, or times where there was like a decision about nuclear warheads or something like that. There's been UFO activity, and it's been around silos and around missiles and stuff like that. And I'm just like, there's got to be some correlation between UFOs and nuclear weapons, or just like a possibility of our planet being in harm, or threat.
Yeah.
And I don't really know the correlation between it, but I just think it's weird. It's just there's so much out there about that, but yeah, it's just I don't know.
Yeah. I mean,
Weird
there
stuff.
has to be a coincidence between government land where they try all these new radars and weapons, in massive areas all day to, crazy, alien encounters and calls and what have it.
Well, one of my, and I don't know, this is like a really good theory, but one of my theories or ideas that I had was, what if Bigfoot was just a byproduct of a nuclear disaster? Like I don't know, somehow it mutated the DNA of a monkey. I don't know, maybe someone had a monkey as a pet and it got out and it got sick and then it had a baby and I don't know. I mean, I'm sure that's all like made up or not real, but it just makes you wonder, could there be any like genetic changes, from nuclear bombs or whatever, or there's people out there, there's scientists out there they do weird stuff, and I
Oh my
don't
God. Yeah.
like I saw this one deal where they paid somebody like it was like $20,000 basically just to take their arm off and reattach it and just to see the success rate. And I'm like, that is crazy. If someone's crazy enough to do that, I'm just saying, who says they're not crazy enough to do other things? So you
Yeah.
never know.
Absolutely, man.
So, I mean,
People
but
are
I think
crazy.
what's kind of cool about Bigfoot though, and stuff like that is it still remains a mystery. And I think some people just like that mystery factor. So, um, that's cool too. So, I'm
Yeah.
not saying it wouldn't be cool if he was discovered because I know science always needs a specimen, but anywho, um, but yeah, I know I'm not trying to get off topic here, but I guess thank you for your story, and I appreciate having you on the show tonight. I
Yeah.
try.
It was a pleasure, man.
I try not to go past 30 minutes or an hour, just depending on however much we have for the story and everything. But feels like a good wrap up point if that's what you if you're good.
Yeah, I'm good here. You know, if you ever wanted to do a round two, feel free to reach out.
Definitely will do, Matt. Appreciate it. And thanks for being on the show.
Yeah, no problem. Have a good one, Rory.
You too. Hey guys,
Bye.
thanks a lot for the watching, tuning in to the story with Rory, and we'll see you later.